Göbekli Tepe itself was the end of a process, not the beginning of a process. It was something that marked together the best of everything that they'd accumulated and created it in one place.
The mystery of Göbekli Tepe runs deep. For years, its purpose baffled experts.
It's much older than all the other ones. It's belonging to the 10th and 9th millennium BC.
This is T-shaped stone. T-shaped mean symbolic is man.
It's a surprising fact here in Göbekli Tepe that we have.
In 2025, a new expedition made a stunning find, seemingly solving the enigma. But the answer to why was it built is far more unsettling than anyone could have imagined.
Up until very recently, archaeologists were under the impression that large-scale megalithic architecture was something that could only arise with the advent of agriculture.
This doesn't just change history. It lets out an old truth that puts everything we know about ourselves in danger. The oldest enigma, a history of haunting mysteries. To even begin to grasp the sheer impact of what was just found, you have to understand the place where it was hiding. Göbekli Tepe isn't just an old ruin. It's the most extreme, most enigmatic, and most challenging archaeological site on the face of our own planet. It's a colossal, artificial mound in Upper Mesopotamia, dating back an astonishing 11,000 to 12,000 years, making it thousands of years older than Stonehenge and the Egyptian pyramids. Trying to imagine such a place? It was built by hunter-gatherers, people we previously believed incapable of such monumental construction or complex social organization. But what was hiding there wasn't just strange or rare. It was something that should have stayed buried forever. There, the rules of our understanding of prehistory don't apply.
We're capable of producing wonderful works of art, rock art, cave art, and things like that, but we never imagined.
The stone pillars, many T-shaped and weighing up to 20 tons, are intricately carved with animals like lions, foxes, snakes, and vultures. The purpose of these structures and why they were deliberately buried thousands of years ago has remained an absolute mystery. And the implications? They're almost beyond comprehension. Göbekli Tepe suggests that complex religious or ritualistic sites predated the development of agriculture in settled communities, turning the conventional narrative of civilization on its head. It's a force so immense it challenges the very foundations of archaeological thought, a discovery that makes the very concept of human progress seem impossible in its linear form. And yet, we've tried to understand it. This ancient hill has been a siren call to human ambition and intellect for decades. In 1994, German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt began excavations, revealing the true scale and age of the site.
And the floor is made of the bedrock, but carefully smoothed bedrock. So it's an unbelievable good preservation of this enclosure.
He spent years uncovering its secrets, but even with his incredible work, the deepest questions remained. The mound kept its secrets. It wasn't until recent advancements in archaeological technology and new theoretical approaches that a more comprehensive picture began to emerge. More recently, adventurer Victor Vescovo has made multiple dives, further mapping the trench. But even with these daring voyages, we've only ever scratched the surface. The trench remains, for all intents and purposes, more mysterious than the dark side of the moon. And it has secrets. For years, researchers have debated the meaning of its symbols, the reason for its construction, and why it was intentionally backfilled. Was it an astronomical observatory, a center for a forgotten cult, a response to a cataclysmic event? One of these mysteries was a repeating, powerful, ultra-low frequency signal detected intermittently by naval surveillance systems and scientific arrays since the early 2000s, originating from the precise location of the Challenger Deep, nicknamed the Pulse by a handful of classified naval acousticians. It was often dismissed as unusual seismic activity or even instrumental noise, but it was too regular, too powerful. It was a heartbeat from the bottom of the world, and nobody knew what was making it. To solve the mystery of Göbekli Tepe, a new mission was launched, one equipped with technology so advanced it could peer into the ancient past without blinking. But no one was prepared for what the past would stare back with. The United States, spurred on by growing geopolitical competition and the need to assert its technological dominance in the deep ocean, greenlights a top-secret expedition. This isn't just another dive, it's a full-blown scientific assault on the Challenger Deep.
My clock stopped, my depth gauge is stopped, everything stopped. Speed's 1.9 knots, I still can't stop from that, I'll hit the bottom too fast.
The mission is centered around a revolutionary new submersible, the Hades 7, a vessel operated by the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, but heavily funded by the U.S. Navy and the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. The Hades 7 is a technological marvel, a $500 million beast of forged titanium and advanced composites designed to not only withstand the trench's crushing pressure, but to operate there for extended periods. Leading the scientific team, composed of leading archaeologists, anthropologists, and geophysicists, was the brilliant, if notoriously obsessive, Dr. Eris Thorne, an archaeoastronomer from a prestigious European university. For years, Dr. Thorne had been haunted by the precise alignment of certain pillars at Göbekli Tepe, convinced they were not random, but encoded a message, a warning, or a profound truth. The patterns are too structured, the celestial correlations too consistent, he reportedly argued in classified briefings. Something down there is breathing. Her mission, her obsession, was to find the source of that breath. The expedition, utilizing advanced ground-penetrating radar, seismic imaging, and drone-based LiDAR, began its intensive survey on May 14, 2025. You see, the journey to the bottom of the world is a slow, terrifying one. It takes more than 3 hours to fall through 7 miles of crushing, freezing darkness. As the submersible descended, the sunlight vanished, replaced by an inky blackness broken only by the bioluminescence of strange, ghostly deep-sea creatures flashing past the thick quartz viewport. The pressure gauge climbed relentlessly, 5,000 pounds per square inch, 10,000, 15,000. Every creak and groan of the titanium sphere, a heart-stopping reminder of the immense forces trying to tear it apart. The crew's communication with the surface was a study in lag, with each message taking precious seconds to travel up and back. They were utterly, completely alone in the most remote place on Earth, hunting for a ghost in the machine. As the team's instruments probed deeper into the earth beneath Göbekli Tepe, the ghost they were hunting began to scream, and the mission to solve a mystery turned into a desperate struggle for a new understanding of humanity. The pulse becomes a roar. Right when things seemed to be going according to plan, at around 35,000 feet, the mission turned into a nightmare. The submersible's sensitive hydrophones, tuned to listen for the pulse, suddenly lit up. But this wasn't the faint, rhythmic signal from the archives. This was a deafening, low-frequency roar that overloaded the sensors. It was like listening for a whisper and getting hit with a sonic cannon. The entire submersible shuddered violently, not from an impact, but from the sheer acoustic energy vibrating through the water. "What the hell was that?" one of the pilots yelled, his voice tight with adrenaline. On the surface, Dr. Reed saw the data spike and her blood ran cold. The energy release was orders of magnitude greater than anything ever recorded. The pulse wasn't just a heartbeat anymore. The beast had woken up, and it was screaming. And then, out of nowhere, the submersible's navigation systems went haywire. The pilots fought for control as the Hades 7 was buffeted by powerful, unseen currents. A turbulent underwater storm where the water should have been deathly still. "We have multiple instrument failures. Temperature is spiking off the charts," the co-pilot reported, his voice strained. Through the viewport, the powerful external lights cut through the abyssal black, and then they saw it. It wasn't a creature. It was the seafloor itself. It was glowing, not with bioluminescence, but with a terrifying shimmering heat haze, like the air above a scorching desert highway. And rising from the glowing seabed were shimmering structures, colossal dark chimneys belching superheated, mineral-rich water into the crushing cold. They weren't just observing the source of the pulse, they were flying directly into its furious, churning heart. What Dr. Thorne and her team, along with a stunned global academic community, were witnessing was something that conventional archaeology had said was impossible. This wasn't just another layer of buried structures, like the ones found elsewhere at the site. This was a proto-city, a term Thorne coined on the spot, a pre-agricultural settlement of unprecedented, terrifying scale, sitting directly beneath the ceremonial circles. The initial scans were almost unbelievable. They revealed a vast, sprawling complex of subterranean dwellings, workshops, and even rudimentary public spaces, covering an estimated 200 square miles of the trench floor. Some of these structures were the size of skyscrapers, rising thousands of feet from the seabed, spewing a superheated, toxic slurry of minerals and chemicals into the water at temperatures exceeding 800 degrees Fahrenheit. It's hard to believe, but this wasn't the most terrifying discovery. The true horror lay beneath the vents. The heat flow readings were off the charts, suggesting that a massive, shallow magma chamber, far larger than any previously theorized, was sitting just miles below the trench floor, cooking the seabed from below. This immense geothermal engine was doing two things, both of them cataclysmic in their implications. First, it was superheating a colossal, previously unknown deposit of methane hydrates.
The country is the first in the world to succeed in extracting gas from methane hydrate deposits in the Pacific Ocean.
A solid, ice-like substance where vast amounts of methane gas are trapped in frozen water molecules under immense pressure. The team's estimates were preliminary, but they suggested this one deposit could contain tens of thousands of gigatons of methane, dwarfing all other known reserves on the planet. And the pulse, that rhythmic deep-sea roar, it was the sound of this massive methane deposit periodically destabilizing, burping out enormous bubbles of high-pressure gas as it was cooked from below. It gets even deeper. This hypercaldera wasn't just a geological curiosity, it was a geological weapon of mass destruction, a planetary-scale time bomb. The team soon realized that the rhythmic pulse was just a warning sign for a much larger, more violent event, one that could redraw the coastlines of the world and plunge civilization into chaos. Suddenly, everything made sense. The mystery of Göbekli Tepe wasn't just about its purpose.
Rather than move that precious date of civilization starting from 6,000 years ago to, 10,000 years ago with Göbekli Tepe,
It was a warning. The team, and a horrified Dr. Thorne, realized they were staring at evidence of a forgotten civilization far more advanced than previously imagined, one that had faced a cataclysmic event. The theory they were now confronting is known as the Clathrate gun hypothesis, a nightmare scenario long debated by climate scientists. The theory posits that if a massive undersea deposit of methane hydrates were to become unstable and rapidly release its trapped gas, the consequences would be absolutely catastrophic. A massive methane burp from the Challenger Deep would be an extinction-level event. Here's the crazy part. The immediate danger wouldn't even be the gas itself. The sudden, violent release of thousands of gigatons of gas from the seafloor would displace a colossal volume of water, triggering a mega tsunami of almost unimaginable scale. Models run in the frantic hours after the discovery suggested a wave that could potentially reach hundreds, if not thousands of feet in height, traveling across the Pacific at the speed of a jetliner. It would obliterate coastlines across Asia, North America, and South America, wiping out coastal cities from Tokyo to Los Angeles, causing hundreds of millions of deaths. And if that wasn't enough, the long-term effects would be even worse. Methane is a greenhouse gas over 80 times more potent than carbon dioxide over a 20-year period. Releasing thousands of gigatons of it into the atmosphere in a short period would trigger abrupt, runaway global warming, on a scale that would make our current climate crisis look like a pleasant spring day. We're talking a potential global temperature spike of 10 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit, 5 to 8 degrees Celsius in just a few decades. The ensuing chaos, agricultural collapse, ecosystem death, extreme weather would be biblical. This wasn't just a discovery. It was a glimpse into a potential planetary apocalypse. We thought we were studying geology, Dr. Reed was later reported to have said in a classified debrief, her voice trembling. We weren't. We were staring into the abyss of a potential extinction event. Just when the team thought the situation couldn't possibly get more terrifying, the submersible's chemical sensors revealed a second,
inorganic chemistry and biochemistry, merging these technologies to develop highly practical chemical sensors.
Equally world-shattering secret that would instantly transform a scientific crisis into a global superpower showdown. A geopolitical gold rush at the bottom of the world. This is where it gets wild. As the Hades 7 continued to cautiously survey the hypercaldera, its chemical sensors and sample collectors started sending back data that was, in its own way, just as explosive as the methane threat. The superheated, mineral-rich fluids gushing from these colossal vents were precipitating out or depositing unheard-of concentrations of rare earth elements, platinum group metals, gold, tellurium, and other critical strategic minerals onto the surrounding seabed. The truth nobody expected is that this wasn't just a geological nightmare. It was simultaneously the single most valuable, most concentrated mineral deposit ever discovered on planet Earth. We're talking about metals essential for everything from stealth fighters and guided missiles to semiconductors, AI servers, and green energy technology. In an instant, the strategic calculus of the mission changed completely. This information was immediately classified at the highest levels. The Mariana Trench was no longer just a scientific curiosity or a terrifying geological threat. It had become the single most important piece of strategic real estate on the planet. A treasure trove so valuable it could shift the global balance of power for a century. What nobody talks about is that the nation that could control and exploit these resources would have an almost unchallengeable technological and military advantage. The doomsday clock now had a twin, the countdown clock to a new Cold War. The secret of the trench couldn't be kept for long, and as whispers turned to intelligence reports, the silent, dark abyss was about to become the world's most dangerous and most crowded new battlefield. Behind the scenes, everything went crazy. The discovery in the Mariana Trench shocked leaders in Washington. What they found wasn't just interesting, it was both very dangerous and very valuable. That changed everything. What started as a science mission quickly became something much bigger. The deep-sea mission, called Hades 7, had a new secret goal. Now, it was all about getting the data first, seeing how useful the trench could be, and making sure the U.S. had eyes on it at all times. They didn't want anyone else, especially China, to get there first. The U.S. Navy acted fast. Without making noise, they started sending more submarines and special ships to the area. These ships had high-tech tools to watch and listen under the sea without being seen. Leaders didn't want the world to know what was going on. Everything was kept top secret. They knew time was short. If someone else got to the trench first, it could change the balance of power on Earth. And even though they didn't say it out loud, deep down, they feared something much worse was hiding in the dark. Something that might already be awake. But you can't keep a secret this big for long. Turns out there's more to the story. China, with its own advanced deep-sea exploration program and a sophisticated global intelligence network, reportedly detected the unusual U.S. naval activity around Guam and the Mariana Trench. Combining this with its own long-term seismic monitoring data, which had also likely registered the pulse, Beijing quickly realized that something of immense significance had been discovered. Soon, Chinese research vessels, a thinly veiled cover for their naval and intelligence assets, began appearing on the periphery of the U.S. operational area. Then came their own deep-sea submersibles, like the Fendoji.
As the submersible named Fendoji, or the Striver, braved its way to 10,909 meters underwater.
By the end of 2025, something strange and dangerous was happening deep under the ocean. In a place called the Challenger Deep, the deepest and most remote part of the sea, two powerful countries were locked in a quiet battle. The United States and China had both sent underwater robots to explore the trench. But they weren't just exploring. These robots were watching each other, playing a risky game of hide-and-seek nearly 7 miles under the surface.
Located in the western Pacific Ocean, this incredible trench is an astounding 11,034 meters deep, which is almost 7 miles.
Above the ocean, both countries kept their Navy ships nearby. They used sonar and satellites to track every move, not wanting to make the first mistake. This wasn't about science anymore. This was about power. Something had been discovered in the trench, something massive, dangerous, and very important. It was no longer just a mystery. The Mariana Trench was hiding something big. Scientists had solved part of the puzzle, and what they found was both exciting and terrifying. It could be a powerful weapon formed by nature itself. It could also hold rare treasures that both countries wanted to control. Now, the world was on edge. What started as a deep-sea mission had become a new kind of Cold War. But this war wasn't fought with guns or bombs. It was fought with silence, shadows, and machines. Two superpowers now faced off at the bottom of the sea, where one wrong move could lead to a global disaster. The question everyone was asking was this: what exactly did they find down there? And more importantly, who will control it? Can humanity cooperate to manage this apocalyptic threat? Or will a deep-sea superpower showdown be our final undoing? What happens next? Let us know in the comments, smash that like, and subscribe for more.